Okay. Good morning and welcome to our third in the series for our Christian entrepreneurs. I am really excited. I'm going to wait just a second. It's because I started technically before 8 o'clock. Okay. And then I am Katrina. I own Reach Life Management. It is a small business and individual consultant company, and I specifically work towards holistic and Christian businesses. Today, I have with me Kelly Pandoff, and I am really excited to hear what she has to say. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yes. Hi, ladies. I am Kelly, and I am a holistic biblical counselor, specifically geared towards serving women any age, pretty much from high school age. We can do some 8th grade, 9th grade, all the way up until whatever age. And I really have a specialty in helping women go from striving to thriving, really working through deep-rooted trauma from the past. So that's a lot of when my clients do come to me. I also do relationship and marriage counseling. But when a lot of my clients come to me, it is there's a surface level issue, and we really get down to really what's rooted that's causing that inconvenience with the circumstance or the season or the unhealthy relationship or unhealthy pattern. So I do counseling, and then I also am a speaker. So I can be a main stage speaker, a breakout speaker. So I do, and I travel. So I've gone to California, Utah, women turn tragedy and trial into triumph. And then my second book is a devotional called Purposely Rooted. So basically, and I actually was going to, so that would be a great book in conjunction with this. So if anybody wants that, I can offer it at a discount. It's normally $13, so we can do a discount of $10 for that devotional. If you want that, get a hold of me and let me know. You can also order it off of Amazon. That supports my ministry, which I'll get to in a minute. And then my third book is called The Stories We Tell, Cultivating a Life of Purpose. And that book is really walking through, it's a lot of the things that I've done personally and then help my clients do, walking through healing and just embracing your story and how God wants to use that and what helps you show up in the world just the best that you can for yourself and for him. And like I said, I do counseling. I'm an author and then speaker. And then I founded a ministry called Do Good Ministries. And that ministry outreaches to at-risk youth. So that demographic is single young moms and dads. We do a dad ministry as well. And girls aging out of the foster care system. So I do counseling, mentorship. We help with diapers and wipes and meals and all that good stuff. So you can look at dogoodministries.org to find out more about that. But all of the proceeds from my books and my art, I actually painted that behind me, but I do watercolor art as well. And from my art go towards my ministry, so I can do pro bono counseling for these clients that we serve, these young kids. Yeah.
So it cut out just a little bit. Can you explain the first part? Who it is you help through that ministry?
Oh, yes. So single moms, young mothers, and we have a dad's ministry too, and then girls aging out of the foster care system. And I do counseling, discipleship, mentorship. We help with material goods, those types of things. Yeah.
I love it. It's actually how I first met you.
Yes, yeah.
I was looking into nonprofits in the area, and Lori was like, "Hey, you should go meet Kelly." And I was like, "Fantastic, going to meet Kelly."
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we try to, obviously we don't get any state or government funding. So everything is from supporters, just families and individuals. And obviously any proceeds from my books and my paintings will go towards that as well. Yeah.
I love that so much. We will make sure that gets linked back into the video when it's posted up, because I love that ministry, and I want to see that thrive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so our first topic of today, the origin and significance of Sabbath rest in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So it's just the significance of rest, right? So God rested on the seventh day. It's something he did not need to do, something he specifically modeled for us, an acknowledgement that we cannot work 7 days a week. It's just not what we were created for. And trying to push out a 7-day a week work week is going to be so detrimental to your mental health, to your physical health, to the health of your business, to the health of your family, to the health of you and your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And there's just no way without that rest that has been significantly acknowledged biblically. Without that rest, there's no way you're going to be able to grow.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I always say that, Sabbath is one of the kindest gifts God gave humanity, and I think helping people look at it that way, that it is a gift we've been given, right? It's also, a command, an obedience thing as well, but and I think people get stuck with that. It's a check mark. I have to do it. We get with so many things. I think the reason a lot of people stray away from biblical values, or maybe some religious things, is because they see it. Unfortunately, it's not a relationship, it's a religion. And
Right.
So I really try to help people when I'm walking through with them that are struggling with their spiritual growth, as a spiritual director myself, helping them to switch that mindset from, because I grew up in religion and checking off the boxes myself. So I really had to purge out and decompress from myself those check marks. That's not, it's religiosity. So I don't know if I cut out there. Did I cut out, or am I okay?
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's religiosity. So what we want to get back to, and hopefully within this time, if anyone is helped with that as well, of learning that, it's a gift. It's an opportunity to sit with him. It's one of the gifts he gave humanity. And I had to learn when I wasn't practicing it, and I am, that I wasn't taking that gift and using it to its full ability, and how beautiful that is. So.
Right. And you acknowledged it, right? Like, it's not just a check mark, because even Jesus worked on Sabbath, because what's important is when Jesus was working on Sabbath, he was doing it for God, right?
Right.
Because even in what he was doing in those moments, it was like to sit in relationship with God, to sit others in relationship with God. He didn't work all the Sabbaths because he understood rest was important, right? But when it became a necessity, he was like, well, this is going to hinder my relationship with God if I don't help this individual sitting in front of me.
Right.
Because it's not just about a check mark. It's about connecting with God on the deepest level possible.
Relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a quote that I love. It says, "We don't keep the Sabbath keeps us." It's not about us keeping the Sabbath, which we like to make. We're very selfish people that like to make everything about us, right? We don't keep the Sabbath keeps us. It's a keeping of us. God gifted it to us so we could work well, love well,
right,
relate well, all of those things, right? It's a keeping of us.
Absolutely. And it falls back to what Jesus said as he stared at the Pharisees, right? Sabbath was not made for, or people were not made for Sabbath. Sabbath was made for people. And it's given to us to be able to rest in him. And without that rest in God, right? Especially for a Christian business owner whose goal really is to base their business around what God's calling them to do, right? You have to be able to take that day of rest with God so that you can push your business further for him, because that's what our businesses end up for, right? It's to further the kingdom. It's to further our relationship and other people's relationships with God. We can't do that if we're not sitting in that connection with him.
Right. And we'll get to that a little bit more later, but just that truth that we have limitations for a reason. And if we're not like time with him for our business, it's going to speak the things into us that we're seeking. Like, should I make this decision or not? Should I employ this person or not? Should I go take a chance on this financial decision in my business or not? If we're not spending that time in Sabbath with God, hearing him, and we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between solitude, silence, and Sabbath, like the different ways, they all do something different. And so if we don't do that, then we're missing out, right? It's that gift. There's a purpose and a reason that it helps keep us, and it keeps us aligned with him. It keeps us seeking him, right? So definitely.
Right. And it allows our bodies, our brains, time to rest and time to reflect on how we've progressed throughout the week in areas that we have been asking for guidance on, right? And like, God, I have asked for you to be a part of this. Show me how I have done good this week and how I can do better next week to continue to have my business reflect you.
Yeah. And what I love about Sabbath is, and some people might love this until they actually get into the groove of it, but it shows us our limitations, our human limitations. And that's such a good thing, because we're not boss women and super women. And, you know, I know that might irritate some people. I don't love those terms, because I'm not made to do it all. I'm not made to be superwoman. I'm made to attach myself to a God who supersedes all things, right? And so it shows me my limitations, it grabs my attention, and then it invites me into that lifestyle. Because Sabbath is not just a day, it's a lifestyle. And what I hope we to learn is that it's not just a day of rest, it also helps us to create new rhythms within our lifestyle to see things differently throughout the week as well.
Right. Because Jesus napped quite often. There are quite a few moments where it acknowledges not only did he nap, right, which I just love to point out. It's Jesus rested because he knew he needed rest, and it's okay to acknowledge the need for rest even throughout the week, right? But not only did he take that time for rest, but he took that time to set aside from his ministry to sit with Jesus.
Yeah.
Because he knew he needed to sit there and talk with God, because even the Son of God needed that connection and communication. He did a really good job of modeling that for us.
Yes, he did. I mean, how many times in scripture do we read he went up on a hillside to rest? He went out by himself. You know, he modeled that pretty beautifully, for sure. Yeah. And just remembering that Sabbath is a day, there's kind of, I like to say there's like 3 parts to it. I don't know if I'm good or not.
It cut out for a second, but I think I got it. You said there's 3 parts to it.
There's 3 parts to it. It's rest, right? So rest meaning there's body rest, there's soul rest, there's physical rest, but there's soul rest. There's a huge difference between both. And that's what Sabbath rest is. It's that soul rest. But your body rest, so rest, worship. So we want to worship. What are we, that's why we try not to buy or sell, right? We're stopping and we're not worshiping the things. We're stopping and worshiping God through that time. And then delight. God wants us to delight. Do you love to garden? Are you out in the garden just sitting and gardening in your backyard and taking that time while your phone's put away? Are you delighting in laying on the lawn, the blanket with your kids and talking about the clouds? Are you delighting in a book? Are you delighting in reading through the Psalms? Like what do you find delight in? Is it taking a walk as a family? Having coffee with a friend, inviting a friend over for coffee and just sitting and praying and talking. So, having all those rest, worship, and delight all together.
Yes, and I also find it really important to sit in community as often as possible when you're sitting on Sabbath, because being able to commune together with God on Sabbath with another individual, it talks about how where two or more are gathered, I will also be there, right?
Yeah.
The praying together makes your prayer stronger, not just within yourself, right? Like when you're praying with somebody, you can feel that energy move between you with God, right? And so being able to sit with community can also be important. How many times, the best model that we can look at is Jesus, and how many times did he sit there and they were learning about God together on Sabbath?
Right. Yeah.
Which, and a good point with that, right? Moving into the next spot, right? With our families, like one of the best things you can do with your family is to make sure that you practice Sabbath together, and set aside that time to be able to help strengthen your family bond.
Right.
With God on Sabbath.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out, because I think some people might be thinking, okay, and we'll talk a little bit about the end about applying as well, but might be thinking, all right, so okay, we're talking about this rest, this worship, delight, and so it's kind of a rhythm that you get into, and we work, and then we rest, and then we receive, and then we give, and then we surrender. And that is fruitfulness, right? That helps us be set apart. It's that kind of this rhythm we create of work, rest, receiving, giving, surrender, and then fruitfulness. And God tells us we're set apart for him. So just starting with that daily, like kind of how I started is with, for myself, a daily practice of solitude, of, okay, like even if it's for 5 minutes, just sitting with nothing on, not even a Bible in front of me, just sitting and deep breathing in. I went on my walk. When I start breathing in the things that, let me receive from you, God, and then breathing out the things that don't serve us well. So just start there, right? And then picking something to stop and cease, like Sabbath means stop and cease. We have to stop something. We need to cease something. That's what Sabbath actually means. And so what one thing that day, or, if you can't do a whole day of Sabbath yet, if it's just it's just an hour that you need to start with. And then what physical rest and spiritual rest, right? What keeps you, what bondage are you in? And you have to practice that first before you can really practice that with your family, because you need to be in that rhythm yourself before you can. And then, it can go from your family to your business, and there's ways to practice it within, if you have employees, if you've, there's ways to remind, if there's a certain scripture you're focusing on for your Sabbath, maybe your employees don't want to practice their Sabbath, but by you showing by example, just as Jesus said to us, people will want to go, what's different? Like, why are, you seem calm, or you seem rested, or you seem like you're handling this conflict differently. That's what Sabbath is going to do for us, among other things. But that impact of rest becomes delight, and delight becomes gratitude, and then gratitude becomes worship. And so if we can model that for our families, like, I'm going to rest, and my rest will make me delight in God and more of myself in my life, and I'll be more grateful for things. So therefore, that helps me to worship him. And then I'm a calmer person to be around. I'm, more, those things. So I think it's we cannot skip that step. And I walk through a lot of my counseling clients with that too. I always say that real work is not here on this 1 hour counseling appointment. It's when you leave here and I gave you tools for your toolbox and you use them. So, right. So we need to cultivate that for ourselves first before we can expect other people to do it and to understand it, and always do things for you, your relationship with the Lord, and without those expectations attached. And then work on those things, work on that rest becoming delight, and delight becoming that gratitude for worship. And then there's going to be a rhythm of worship within yourself, which will radiate. We know mamas run the heads of the home, right? Normally we can make or break a situation by walking into a room. So, so I think it also reminds us that it's just us first, but it offers us peace. Like, right, that worship and that rest time shows us, okay, I'm having peace here, which is going to radiate into my little people, my husband, my extended family, whoever I'm around. And that peace is when you're out in nature and that relationship, right? And with self, it's first peace with self. And you cannot receive that by doing all the other things. You can only receive that. So, and if we're not spending time with him, we can't even receive it.
Right.
So, so it helps with that family unit. And I think that's a step we cannot miss. Is like, I know that when I was younger and tried it with my children, I kind of had an skewed view of Sabbath before I really dug in and started learning about it. And I had kind of like it put in a box and didn't have really the relational aspect. It was more of what the check marks, what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
So I definitely learned from doing it incorrect when I was 20 something years ago, when I was younger. My kids were younger. I'm an empty nester now, but just we cannot miss the step of it is for, we have to do it because we were receiving that gift and we want to do it for us. And then it's going to relay out into all the different pockets of our life, our marriage,
absolutely,
our relationship with our children, our how we run our business, how we show up every day, and all the different titles that we wear. And I think I
really did.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I really do like that you acknowledged, like, if you're so used to sitting in like the worldly view of rest, and you're working towards legitimately practicing Sabbath, right? Like, as that just day of complete rest and connection with God, right? Because when you look at all the check marks that fall under Sabbath, right, it really just boils down to making sure you are just resting and in relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's for, right? It's for our rejuvenation. It's for a deeper connection and understanding of who God is and how he's moved in our week and how we want him to move in our next week. But when you're so used to being in this worldly, like, okay, I got to keep moving, practicing a true Sabbath, right, is not going to come easily. It's not for a lot of people. There are some people who are like, oh, Sabbath, beautiful. I can just sit all day and rest with God. I'm easy. But there are going to be a lot of people that are going to find it really hard to step into that because we're so used to the world, right?
Well, and that brings me, we're used to producing. We're used to our production equates our value. And so when we are sitting in Sabbath and we are resting and sitting with him, and you said, Sabbath is really about us getting to know, being with God and getting to know him. And if we know who he is, then we know who we are. Yeah. So the further we are away from him, we're lost, we're floundering. And I see people weekly in my counseling office that just they're in an identity crisis, and especially women. We wear all the titles and the hats of sister, wife, mother, aunt, boss, coworker, best friend, whatever it is. And we identify usually with one or two of those more than we identify with our identity in Christ. And so that Sabbath is back to that gift for you. Like, why are we not receiving it? What is stop? And that's a great, I always do reflection questions. It's a great reflection question for those of you who are listening and watch the recording to write down is, what am I so afraid of? Why am I not practicing this? Why am I not receiving this gift that's given to me? It's like someone's handing me a beautiful wrapped gift and I just let it sit on the table and don't touch it. Why would I ever do that if that's something they've made for me and wrapped for me, right? And so it goes back to, we get to discover that we are who we are aside from producing. Really, we get to discover, who are we aside from producing? And I struggled with this in my own life, that my personality, I love to get things done. I love to check off my list. I love to be productive. It makes me feel so good about myself. And so that's something I really struggled with about 10 years ago. And God really spoke into that for me. And every now and then, because I do so many things and he has gifted me with the gift of organization and administration. So I can do a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I should do all the things. And I think that's great to remember in business, that just because we have a gift or just because we feel it's a calling, this Sabbath time gives us that chance to stop and ask, okay, well, this seems like an avenue or a door that's open, God. We're taking that once a week time to really sit with him and just have that relationship and let him speak into us, because there's so many times that I thought they're good. We have great things happening. You can have something really good, but it doesn't mean it's for you. Just because it's good doesn't mean it's right or it's for you. And if we're not sitting with him and if we're not setting aside and discovering who we are aside from producing, that was a huge wake-up call for me. Like, I can do a lot of things and do them well, and I could do this or this, but it doesn't mean that's what I'm called to do. And I think that's super important in business. And I obviously run a couple different nonprofits and businesses, so it's super important in business it has been imperative in mine to have that time to stop. And I'm not talking even with the Bible open or the podcast about God on or anything like that those good things. It's stopping and spending time with him, right? Listening to him. And that is a practice we have to cultivate. It doesn't come easy. So just that reminder that it's also a gift of, who are we aside from producing? Like, God, and asking him a question, who am I? If I'm not producing, if I'm not doing what I think you've called me to do, if I'm not getting it done. And what that it does is that it addresses our fear of missing out. Normally it's a fear, and for me it was, of, am I missing out on something? Where am I emotionally unhealthy to where I'm putting that in front of my relationship with God? So.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of individuals that have, you mentioned earlier, like set up this like idea of Sabbath as being religious, right? Religious based. Jesus was like, God did not like religion. Religion is not what God set out for.
Yeah.
Community, like connection with him, like with yourself and with your community that you're surrounding yourself with. Like that's what's important. Helping those who are in need, loving, like love is what comes from God, right? And we get this idea from, and it starts at a really young age now. When you produce something that's high standard, you get rewarded.
And then check mark, there's my value. There's my worth.
Right.
It's in me giving you something that made you happy. And that's why in my office, I see 30 years and up people pleasers. 80% of what we're dealing with is deconstruction of being a people pleaser from age 4, being taught that if I produced for you or for me, if I go to college and get the good grades, if I get the degree, if I, get the A on the test, if I do great in sports, then therefore you deem me worthy. And my whole goal now is to make mom or dad happy, sister happy, grandpa happy,
whoever is
my coach happy. Right. And then,
And I think back to the story of Martha and Mary when Jesus was in their house, right? Are you not going to tell my sister to come work like I am? Jesus is like, I'm not going to take away the connection and rest with me that she is receiving right now, because that's what's more important.
Yeah, and they both were doing, and my pastor just spoke about this at a sermon a couple weeks ago. He kind of hit on it when we were talking about something else, and he made a good point. They both were doing important work, but Martha's heart posture was not in the space where it needed to be, right? It was her heart posture.
Right.
Mary's heart posture was, I'll do what you need me to do. I'll abandon all to be with you. I just want to sit with you. And Martha really wanted to have a beautiful space for him and a meal prepared. And there's nothing bad about that. But her heart posture was, she was bitter and frustrated, right? So that shows us that her heart posture wasn't in the right space. So, yeah.
Well, it wasn't she was resting in what she was doing to give to Jesus.
Yes.
It was, I'm doing these things, so Jesus obviously is going to be happy that I'm doing things for him.
That production base. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is just, and that's just not how Christian businesses operate. If you're actually giving your business and centering your business around God, because it's not going to be a production-based business, which is what a lot of businesses in the world are, very production-based. Like, what have I provided today that has been beneficial to my business? It's going to be, what have I done today that has strengthened my business in God? What have I done today that has strengthened me and those I serve in God? And so, which if you think of it like that, what have I done today that has strengthened my business with God? What have I done today that has strengthened me and those around me with God? Then it becomes easier to sit in that rest as a business, focusing your business back and like solely based in the center on God. But that's, again, another hard thing, and that's not something that comes easy. That's something you have to step by step work into, because even if you based your business on God in the first place, the world very easily takes it over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been there with, I've always been a woman of faith, but it definitely, I can see within my ministry, like I have to solely lean on him. We have our once a month prayer time, and I constantly say, and I say the same thing every time, because I have to say it to myself over and over again. Like, this is not Kelly's ministry. This is God's ministry. And if tomorrow the doors close, then same with my counseling. I am good at what I do. I love what I do. I know I'm called to counsel women and help them in their relationships. But if tomorrow God says, I'm shutting these doors, it's not about my production. It's not about me. I have to trust. And so within business, without Sabbath rest, you're going to be a slave to something. Right. Yeah. We're a slave to something. So that time of Sabbath helps you to reorient your work week, lay it all at his feet, give it to him, have that time. And you're going to see that production within yourself and in your business is going to skyrocket when you allow yourself that rhythm of Sabbath rest. But we're so fearful because we hold so tight to production and money and algorithms and whatever it is for your business that you're wanting to gain. And I had to learn a long time ago to stop looking at those man-made things and trust that God is going to put praying over your posts when you put them out, right? Yeah. I have to do, it's like, I pray over, if I'm going to send a post out about my ministry or gaining new clients, I pray, because I'm not in it. It's shifting that mindset of, this is, you've given me this business. You've given me this vision or this desire or this dream to work for you. And if you've done that, then if I sit with you and I trust you, as best we can, we're human, right? We have our human limitations, but that's why that rest time is so important, because that's where we get our refueling, not from, doing more. That's never going to refuel us. So we're always to something. Our Sabbath rest helps us get out of our bondage and our slavery, just like he did with the Israelites. That's in Exodus. That's what he did. That's a perfect example, right? So, and we can't not prioritize it. Like, this is what I want to say to people in business. We can't not do it. it shouldn't be an option. We can't not do it, because if you're not going to do it, you will see the effects. I mean, I see the effects every day in my counseling office.
Right. Burnout is a big, right at the top of my head, just in yourself. And if you're burnt out, your business is not going to thrive. That's just not how it would work. You mentioned refueling, and like all I could think of was a car, right? Like if you're not refueling with God, right? Your car's gonna stop. It is only a matter of time. It is just gonna keep running out.
Right. Well, and I love, like, I think of it as like, obviously building a house, there's the foundation has to be put down first. If without the foundation of the home, and if it's not done correctly, if it's not done, with wisdom and discernment, if it's not done with the right ingredients, it's not with care and time, then over time, that house, you can put the walls up, you can put the plaster over them, you can decorate it, you can put furniture in it, but over time that house is going to start underneath slowly crumbling. And so your Sabbath is your foundation. Your Sabbath is what you are built on, and that weekly Sabbath is what's going to bring you through over and over. And it's essential for us to enter back into that work week. It's essential for us to be corrected, to be renewed, to have God's call and his presence and purpose. It's like, why would we want to miss out on that? Why would we want to miss out on getting to come back into our work week renewed and restored, and with more of God's presence and more, and I feel it. I have so much more of God's purpose front and center, and correction of, oh, yep, I was going to go that direction, or I was maybe going to make this business decision. But when I sat with God this week, he told me, keep praying about that. Let's hold off on that. Or yes, go forward with that. You have your presence with your presence in your business, and your purpose is, and everyone sees it. You show up different on Monday morning. Your kids see you different. It's that full rest and renewal. So that work, rest, and renewal, it's honoring your limits within yourself first. And I want women to get this. We're talking about business. But business, you were the one that called to do that business. So you've got to work on you first. We're going to go back to that. So that work, rest, and renewal first with you, and then that it honors your limits. I've got limits. I'm human. I got to be real with my humanity here. And then when I honor my limits, I can reach my full potential. And I think that's what we're missing in the world. It's a go, go, go. Don't stop. Be all the things. And that's a complete tactic of the enemy. He wants you to stay busy and think that your production is your value and your worth. And as long as he can keep you there, then you will not practice Sabbath. You will not show up to your full potential. You will never reach the goals that you yourself personally in your business were supposed to reach for God, because he kept you small. He kept you over here, right? And it's exhausting. It's just exhausting. So honoring your limits helps you to reach your full potential, and Sabbath helps you honor your limits.
Well, and with practicing Sabbath, right? Like once you get into you mentioned the rhythm, right, of practicing Sabbath every week, right? And reflecting on Sabbath, it gets a lot easier to reflect during the week, to sit with him during the week. We talk about, when you're running a business, there are so many things so many plates you have to spin, right? And it can get so overwhelming. And, Satan really likes to overwhelm you, because when you're overwhelmed, you're not looking to God, right?
Yeah.
But if God's calling you into your business, all those plates you're spinning are meant to be spun by you, or he'll give you the person that's supposed to help you spin them, right? But if you're not used to being able to reflect on how and when and what God is saying to you during the week, when you're trying to spin all those plates, you're not going to be able to prioritize properly. You're not going to be able to prioritize the way God needs you to prioritize those plates. because you're going to be focused on the typical way things are prioritized.
Yes.
But that's not going to put you in position to sit with God in the way that your business needs to be run with Him.
Yeah.
I talk about it a lot. I've got a lot that goes on in my life, and the only way that I'm able to manage them the way that I do is because of the fact that I have God lead me in my days. Like, what am I supposed to be doing today? And a good example outside of business, we've had a broken microwave for I don't know, we're going on 2 months or something. And I have not felt called to go replace that microwave. I've been upset that the microwave was broken, but it wasn't I wasn't feeling called to take care of it. Sure enough, the microwave we thought would never come back came back and is working again. Had I gone and replaced the microwave, I would have spent an extra, because it's over the stove, needs the fan, like a whole extra amount of money that I didn't need to spend because it came back.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had that same thing happen, and not with a microwave, but with different things in my life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's what, if I'm very open to hearing God, I'll feel where He pulls me. And then I'll be like, man, that's not what I was going to do today, God. I was going to go do something else. But if I'm feeling that pull, I'm okay, God, I trust you. And then I see the reasoning behind it. Yeah. Typically very easily or very soon. Sometimes I don't get to know why, but sorry. But typically there's a reason why God has called me to wait.
Yes, definitely. And I like, there's freedom that comes through resistance, right? There's freedom that comes through resistance, and resistance of what for you? And I think that's a great question to ask yourself as you're going through this journey, for those who are listening, of, okay, I want to try to grasp onto this whole idea of Sabbath and in my business and my personal life. So it obviously flows into my business, and I can honor God with my business through this rhythm that I want to create. But we're in bondage. We're a people in bondage. We're people that are slave to things in this world, and we're kidding ourselves if we think we're not. And so we're searching for peace. We're searching for freedom. We're searching for healing, but we don't want to give up the things that we're in bondage to in order to receive that. So I say freedom, comes through resistance. So like you were saying, what am I stopping? What am I ceasing? I have to stop something. So it's a mindset shift, really. I mean, it's he liberated them from bondage. That's why Sabbath, like, that was a practice of Sabbath, like, I'm liberating you from bondage. And so we're called to sit and worship and delight in that one day a week, like he taught them to do. And there's a renewal. There's a resistance that we're giving up something in order to receive what we are wholeness from him, instead of from technology or buying the shirt or, going out to that meal or, making sure I've got all of this project done or this PowerPoint done because I'm stressed about it. I don't know how many times I can tell you when I have been tempted on the Sabbath to do something. And there's times when I've bombed it, right? There's times when I have, and and I'm not rested, and I show up in the week and it's like, oh, I should have practiced my Sabbath better this week because I did, answer those texts or, get on my message on Facebook to answer the business things. And, oh, just one time. Right. And so for me, and I think for most of us, technology is a huge way to start practicing that rest of, I'm going to turn the world off for me.
Yes.
And you're going to find so quickly the freedom in that resistance, the freedom in saying, I'm resisting from these outside sources so I can have freedom in my relationship with the Lord and me personally. So therefore I can have freedom within my business to honor him wholly with the production he seeks for me, not what I'm seeking.
Right. And when starting with technology, I started with social media because what social media is intended to keep you on for as long as possible. It is set up so that you don't leave. That is its goal, right? Because the longer you stay on, the longer they make money.
Yeah. Right.
So I started with social media, and every now and then, even with my business, right? Because social media will work in general, I have made it up to the point where I don't work on Sabbath. But starting with social media for me made it very clear on the days that I got on social media how poorly it made me feel.
Yes.
Sitting in it. And through the habit, right, the rhythm that I worked on not doing social media, it has gotten easier for me to catch myself. Because you open your phone, there's a lot of the times when you're like just chilling on the couch, right? You'll like pull up your phone. Oh, let me look at that. Oh, no, I'm not going to look at that because it's Sabbath and I'm resting. And I know that doesn't help me truly rest because it just stresses me out every time I get on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of what we talked about at the beginning of what I found in my life, and you will find if, these women start doing this, is that not only do I do a Sabbath, I actually do a sabbatical, which that's a whole nother thing. But I also, like, once or twice a year, but I also do, I really try to do a little mini Sabbath every evening and try to be off my phone. I don't always do that well, but my goal is to plug my phone in by 8 o'clock. Oh, I don't know if you lost me. To plug my phone in by 8 o'clock
I still heard
every
you, but you
evening.
froze.
Yeah. So in that, you're going to realize if you can even do that, it gives me, okay, I go on the walk on my evenings I try not to go on my walks in the morning or the evenings I do it without my phone. It helped me to start being able to detach and resist even more in little pockets. Like we said, it's a lifestyle. Right. It can become a lifestyle for you. And there's so much freedom in not having to have your phone on you. And there's things you realize like, oh, I'm leaning on God more, not on this app or this circumstance or Google or whatever. I'm leaning on God. And so huge for me. And I'm still working on it. I mean, it's still,
no, it's sadly we cannot be perfect. It's not something that will ever come to us. We will always have some falter. And also remembering if you have to pull the ox out of the cart or the ox out of the ditch, right? The cart out of the ditch on Sabbath. Sometimes things have to happen. Now they're not necessarily in our business, right? But doing something that maybe is work for your children. Or so say cleaning is not your thing, right? But your child just spilt all the milk across the floor.
Right. Yeah.
We're not going to leave the milk for tomorrow. We're going to clean up the milk on the floor.
Yeah.
Right. But there will be times where, Jesus healed on Sabbath, but it was for God. There are going to be some things that feel a little bit more like work that are going to have to happen on Sabbath. And it's not gonna stop God from loving you working on Sabbath. God will still love you. Jesus still died for you. Jesus still loves you. And he made it very clear that that's not going to separate you from God. It will hinder you from hearing him if you work intentionally against Sabbath, against that rest for him. If it is you sit here and you're like, oh, I could rest right now, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
It's very different than, oh, it's Sabbath, but I have to do this thing for my kiddo. Or me and my husband have to go to this event and we're going to have to spend money because it's for family.
Yeah.
those things aren't going to separate you from God.
No.
No.
That's getting into legalism, and that's not what, and it's such a personal thing. Like you and I had
Right.
talked about when we were kind of talking, interviewing kind of for this time together, kind of bringing up the subject. It's my husband absolutely loves to mow the lawn. It's relaxing for
Yeah.
him. He loves to be out in nature. He loves to do that. So for him, and there's some people that be like, no work on, that's work. Well, what's work for one person might not be work for another. I love to garden. I love to plant. Some people might hate doing that. That might
Right.
be like, I have to go out and mow the lawn. No, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go mow the lawn. I go in the backyard and I'm planning, and we're kind of doing it together. And then we come back in, take showers, rest. We might, read a book together, whatever it's going to be. But and that doesn't happen every Sabbath, but I'm saying like that's not work. So it's a personal thing, just like your relationship with the Lord is personal. So don't put it in a box. And I would say, think about what robs you of your peace. That's what you need to cease. That's some of the things you need to cease on Sabbath. What robs you of your peace? What gets your soul all in knots that's stressful for you? Those are the things you need to start releasing. Sabbath means to stop and cease. So cease something. Start with one or two things, but that thought of what robs me of my peace. Is it a certain relationship where I don't want to? I mean, there's certain people that I have a family member, for instance, that when they call me, they get me, I get a little, and I'm, as a counselor, I'm very aware of my emotions and my feelings.
Right.
And so I know when to answer the phone for that person and when not to, because that person can kind of suck me dry sometimes. So I need to be girded up and prepared for that phone call if I want to show up well. And so I wouldn't answer the phone for that person on the Sabbath, if that was a phone call. So what robs you of your peace? I think that's a great way to start. I don't know if you want to go into practical steps. I've got some things I wanted to talk about for that. Did you want to move on to that?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So before I said there's solitude, silence, and stillness. So let's just kind of, if you want to write these down, I think it's helpful to know the difference, because I didn't know the difference until I, studied this myself and was really learning things. So solitude is letting go of attachments of your beliefs or others' beliefs of you. So solitude brings you into a place of letting go of attachments of what you believe or what others believe about you. Silence is letting go of planning and fixing and scanning and doing and producing, right? So silence is helping us let go of all of those things within our brain that are planning and fixing. And stillness is us being able to let go of productivity and addictions, like things that we're addicted to, anything that helps us be productive, like we feel like we need to produce. So solitude, silence, and stillness, and those are all different. And I remember when I learned that, like the window had opened up for me of different ways I can practice each one. And so we need to know those. We need to know what solitude, silence, and stillness is in us. And that helps us go, oh, okay, when we sit and we really spend time with God in those areas, he's going to show up, okay, where are the attachments of beliefs that I have that I need to let go, right? I'm working on that this Sabbath. Okay, I'm in the silence. Where am I? I got to just calm my brain down. So silence is kind of what I start with. Like, let me just sit in silence. And then, and if you can only do it 3 or 5 minutes, but really that's not going to get, you can start there, but we've got to sit a little bit longer with that to really weed out the thoughts that are, and to calm them down a minute, and then to start letting God, the solitude come in. Okay, now I'm silencing my brain. I'm silencing all of the words and the thoughts. Now I can go into solitude and I can go, okay, now I'm going to let go of, man, I just looked at my stomach this morning when I got out of the shower and I just feel so fat. I've got to go to hot yoga. I've got to figure this out. Or, this person said this about me. I think maybe they don't like me, or maybe I hurt their feelings. Then we're letting go of those attachment beliefs, right? We got to take time, and then we can move into stillness. Okay, now I've let go of the planning and the scanning, and then I've let go of the attachments and the beliefs, and now I'm letting God just be still, that I don't have to produce. And that lack of production and that resistance is going to help me be attentive more to anything within me that's addictive or not healthy for me, that is hindering my relationship with God, right? So, and that's why it's important to pay attention to what we say yes to and what we say no to, right? So that's where we start on Sabbath. What are we saying? What's robbing us of our peace? What are we saying yes to? What are we saying no to? And so here's a couple steps if we want to move into that. I would say no to working, to buying, to selling, say no to emotional stress, and say no to technology. So those are kind of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 things I would say. Start with saying no to working, to buying, to selling, to emotional, anything that's emotional stressful for you. If that's something within yourself that you do, if it's a relationship, if it's a conversation, and then technology. If you can kind of go, okay, what in those categories robs me of my peace, and what can I say no to there? And then say yes. So we're saying no to those. Let's stop and cease that. Let's Shabbat, let's Sabbath that. And then let's move on to what can I say yes to? So now we're going to say yes to body rest. A nap that I can have? Is that, just me laying outside in the sun? Is that getting, what is that? And then mind rest. Then you want to rest your mind. So see, there's different ways to rest. And then soul restoration. So sitting, it could be reading a psalm. It could be just practicing that solitude, silence, and stillness, right? That soul rest. And then rest with boundaries. You need to have boundaries set up, prepared for yourself when you're going into that. And the boundaries allow us to receive God's goodness on the Sabbath, right? If we don't have boundaries around work, technology, and relationships around the Sabbath, then we're not able to receive all God's goodness that he has for us on Sabbath and that true relationship.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to the best model, right? Jesus specifically had boundaries around his his solitude and his stillness and his silence. Like he's like, don't follow me. I am going by myself.
Yeah, leave me alone.
And he had his disciples say, it's not safe for you to go by yourself. Leave me be. I have to go by myself.
Yeah.
He knew, not only did he desire that stillness and solitude and silence with God, he knew we needed to understand that we need that just as much as he desired that while he was on earth. Because he was the Son of God, but he was fully man. So he still required the stillness that we needed, that we need to implement into our lives. He really was the best model of where those boundaries need to come into place. And he was very clear on his boundaries. He did not shy away from them. It did not matter what other people thought about his boundaries.
Yeah.
He made them very clear.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And so we need to do the same, right? We need to make a list of the no's. What are we going to stop and cease? Like be proactive about this, right? Prepare ahead of time. So like, this is the perfect time. We're on Wednesday. Wait, is this Wednesday? Yes, it's Wednesday, yes. Right? So we're on Wednesday. So if you're going to practice your Sabbath for 24 hours, starting this week or next week, give yourself time to prepare and make your list. Start today. Okay, these are the things I need to cease. These are the things that, are robbing me of my peace, that are not allowing me to rest well. This work, technology, relationships, what are the things I need to say no to? And then what are you going to say yes to on Sabbath? What will you include in your rest for your mind, your body, and your soul? So kind of take those 3 concepts. So prepare your yeses, prepare your nos, and just kind of ask yourself some questions like, what do I need rest from, Lord? Like start today. Start from Wednesday to Friday. If you're going to do your Sabbath from sundown Friday to sundown on Saturday, great. If you're going to do your Sabbath from sundown on Saturday to sundown on Sunday, great. But kind of create a rhythm for you of what you're going to do. Like my husband and I, we actually put our phones away in another room, and then we stop and pray. We turn the ringers off, we put them away for 24 hours, and then we stop and we pray before we start our Sabbath. And that's kind of our ritual. It kind of reminds us we're doing this and we're doing this for a purpose and a reason. And so that's kind of how we start our Sabbath. So find, what do you want to do? I mean, how amazing is it to be able in your business, personal life and business, to say, man, I get to partner with God in this. And because he seeks that for us. It's not just he's up here lording it over us and wants us to follow these rules. No, he wants relationship with you. And this is your opportunity to take that gift. So, what do you need rest from? What does your body, your mind, and soul need rest from? Start a journal, start those notes. How can you partner with God well in this time? Like, God wants to partner with you. He's God and he can do anything, but he desires to partner with us, in a relationship with us. So you get to partner with him in this Sabbath time. How do you rest well? What is it that helps you rest well? List those things out. And then I think a great question to ask yourself is, what renewal am I seeking? What renewal is God wanting to do within me personally so it shows up in my business? And show it because you are your business, right? That you are that face of that business. So I'm going to go back to, we can't not make it a priority, right? And freedom comes through resistance. So if you want the freedom, if you want the peace, if you want deeper relationship, you want him to be the author of that business, then you can't afford to not do this.
Right. And I have one more acknowledgement before our closing, right? So how many times have you been sitting there? We'll talk about school wise, right? And you're like trying to write that paper. And you sat there that one day for like 2 hours, 3 hours, couldn't even get one word down on the paper.
Yeah.
But you step away from it for a few hours.
Go take a walk.
The day. You come back to it the next point and you're like, oh, this is flowing so freely. I know exactly what I'm going to do now. Because the same way, if we step aside with God, all of those things that we are working through with our business, with our personal lives, with our families, we take that day of rest with God. He will clarify it. We just have to give that bit to him.
Yeah, it goes back into him giving you his presence, which gives you a perspective, which gives you a purpose. Like it realigns your purpose back again with, the things that you were confused about. Because I would say with my clients, God is not a God of confusion. He's a God of clarity. So when there's confusion present, that's not of him. So that's a sign to us that we know. So confusion is not who he is. He's very clear with us. We confuse it. We overlook ourselves. We don't take time to rest and have renewal. So then we're missing the mark. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, I thank you so much, Kelly, for again hopping on with us. I enjoy listening to you speak. I definitely suggest for those who listen, right, who are listening, that if you do not already, hop on Kelly's Facebook page and listen to her in her beautiful moments of teaching. Like, I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, I also have a private Facebook group called Purposeful Pause. And so if anybody wants to join that, I hop on live on Fridays, sometimes on Thursdays, and we're actually going through the attributes of God right now, which would be a great way to practice in your Sabbath, is to kind of take that chunk and work on that throughout the week of whatever topic. It's a free community. I just do it because God's called me to do it, but it's private. So you have to request. So there's some posts on my Facebook page about it. But you have to just request to join and then I'll accept you. And so if this is something that people want to build more of their spiritual direction and spiritual growth, then it's a great place to hop on.
Yes. And I will again put up your contact information, but can you tell those who may not end up, because I post this up on YouTube. So for those who don't find this on Facebook, can you tell them how to connect to you?
Yeah. So if you are interested in counseling at all, I think she has my email there, but it's info@dogoodministries. Let me look. I forget if it's info@dogoodministries.org or .com. How can I always, let me look really quick. Sorry. But you're just email me. Let's see. Okay. So my website for the ministry is dogoodministries.org. And so if you look on there, you can find out about the ministry, but then there's a counseling section. You can read a little bit about me there. But if you want to actually schedule, I do like free 15, 20-minute consultations with people to see if I'm a good fit for them. If you want to schedule that, then you're going to email me at info@dogoodministries, I think it's .org.com.
Let me look really quick. I have it on. I have it up here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to look really quick because I don't ever email my. Let me look. Okay, here's the email.
.org.
It is. It's
dogoodministries.org.
It's info@dogoodministries with an s.org. So you'll have that there too, but you can put it in the comments or whatever. But that email me there if you have any questions about my books, if you have questions about getting some counseling from me. I do have some limited spots open. I don't lose clients very often, so I usually have a pretty full schedule. But I can take new clients every now and then. So we can talk there, info@dogoodministries.org. So email me there for any questions that you have. You can hire me to be a speaker. I do have some openings. I have some things set for the spring, but I do have some openings here and there throughout next year. If you're needing a speaker for a church event or a women's event or a business event, something similar to this, if it's aligned with biblical and those types of things. So I do all sorts of things throughout the year. If you follow me on Facebook, I do a servants leadership course. Actually, I didn't think about that till just now. And I just did an online course and had about 8 or 9 women. You get a course book, but it's called Servant Leadership. And it's just how to show up as a servant leader, as Jesus did as the example. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing course. God just really spoke through me through that course. It's stuff I never teach what I haven't walked through. And so I got to do it with about 9 or 10 women a couple months ago online and just got rave reviews of how much it's helped. Some of them were business owners. Some of them were ministry leaders. So it's kind of leading in the way we all lead. We all lead somehow. Even if you're the leader, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're leader of your home, you're being that servant leader. So, but that's something you can hire me to do to come into your business. I can teach, go through that course with you and your employees. I think I'm going to offer it again online, probably in the spring sometime. But I do have that course as well. So I do a renewal course, like at the beginning of the year, usually an online course. So just, follow me and you'll find my stuff. You could register when you see the posts. So
awesome. Well, thank you all again for wherever you end up listening from. We will be continuing next week with our series. I don't have, of course, it pulled up to tell you what the next one is, but it's going to be good. I know it. We're going to continue to walk through teachings for Christian entrepreneurs who really need this kind of a community and these kinds of help walking through the business, because the secular business world is not going to give you the kind of information that you need if you're basing your business around God. So we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you again, Kelly. I will definitely be in touch and I will talk to you again soon. I can guarantee it. I'll probably be hopping on Friday. I try every Friday to at least hop on for a little bit.
Awesome. It's good. Love to have you.
Awesome. I'm gonna get off now and I will talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.